just happened on Monday. So, yeah, bummer.
That's a real bummer. And maybe as we move along with our safety forums, maybe that's, you know, a topic that we can get into, and that's overhead work and crane operation work. I know that we usually have rigging and stuff like that for cranes going on, but as far as the safety goes, but we can definitely bring in SME on that. We've got a few contacts in that area, but man, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And there's probably some pretty good information out there as well as like overhead work and crane operations, and that's pretty much readily available. But it's a topic that you hear a lot, you know, and you hear a lot about cranes, kind of especially if there's the outrigging on cranes for weight distribution. You hear that, you know, people using these faulty platforms and wood platforms really for a stabilizer, and it's just like, man, like, they're sinking right in, you know, and toppling over or getting off tilt on their cranes. And so that's a big one that happens all the time. I've seen it happen many times. It's a good topic. We might look into that a little bit more in depth. Next month's topic, just before we get started, next month we will take a look at the crystal ball, right, and determine a schedule for the 2021 safety forums. Okay, so that'll be a good one where we can take some of the things that we've seen. We'll definitely have an OSHA update like we do every year. But next month is when we will strategically take a look at the next schedule and put it together. This schedule this year went kind of crazy because we started the schedule off with ABC, but they've pulled off and done a few different things with their safety. We might see them again soon, but they pulled off, and we're trying to do some different things with their safety. And so our schedule got a little bit off tilt, and we're kind of just going right now as far as what demand seems to be as far as safety. But next month we will develop that outline for 21. So if you want to participate in that, or got some good subject matter or safety topics that are affecting your organization or your company, let's cover those topics and we'll get them on schedule. But now, having gone through that, let's jump into this topic, and that is fire awareness and prevention in the workplace, in the home. So Dustin, you want to go ahead and kick this one off? I know that you've been addressing this within Integrity Electric and doing some safety talks on it. So kick us off, my friend.
Okay. You want me to share the screen, or do you want to do that, or what?
Oh no, go ahead. You share the screen. That's fine. If you have it ready.
All right, yeah, pretty much it's fire prevention at home and at work. You know, I got a little Smoky Bear up there. You know, it's important. You know, as it's fire season, obviously we want to think about things that we're doing that at home and at work that can keep us from letting loose things in our personal life. You know, fire prevention at work can take many different forms. You know, there's a project that I was working on where they left a whole bunch of cardboard boxes up on the roof, and somebody threw a cigarette in there and it all caught on fire, and it's a high risk of fire when cardboard dries out in the sun, and any little spark can really make it go up and just wreak havoc after that. You know, especially when
Dustin, sorry to interrupt you. Did you guys see Smokey the Bear?
Okay.
No.
Are you not seeing it?
Nope.
No, we're seeing your screen, but not your PowerPoint.
Okay. I don't know what I did wrong. Shows everybody on there. I'm not good at the whole screen share thing. Do you want to do that part?
You sent me the presentation, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I can do mine. Hold on one second here.
Yeah, go Steelers. Sorry.
But keep going, Dustin.
Okay. So yeah, last week we had or week before last, this was from my safety topic that we did last week. But we had a project where they had a butt can on the project, like they do, and somebody didn't put their cigarette out before they did all that, and it caught the butt can on fire. You know, so you got to watch out for that too. Even though you have the right way to dispose of your cigarettes or whatever, it doesn't always help. So I think I'm still sharing the screen, and I don't know how to undo that.
Oh, I can just click unshare screen.
Well, the whole thing went away.
Here, I'm on it, my friend. Hold on one second here. Hold on one second here. Pulling it up.
Excuse me.
Maybe. All right. I'm taking over. Taking over.
Okay.
Well, maybe.
There it is.
You guys see it?
Yep. There's smoke
Okay.
there.
So fire prevention at the home and at work.
So yeah, like we were saying, this is fire season. Be careful. Things can catch on fire and cause a big nasty mess. This was the butt can thing I was talking about. So yeah, out at a project that we were working on, they threw cigarettes in the butt can like they're supposed to, and ended up catching on fire and catching the construction fence on fire. So this is evidence of someone doing the right thing, and it still just wasn't quite enough. So just make sure you put your cigarettes out before you put them in the butt can. There was well, this was the project with the contractors left the HVAC. This isn't the actual picture of the project, but you know, they had all the cardboard up on top of the roof, you know, and little cigarette butt cost $100,000 worth of damage. And the fire department came out to a neighborhood where we were building some apartments, and they didn't want them there anyway, you know, so it just made it harder to do our job every day because of a silly mistake. But yeah, not all fires are created by cigarettes, you know. And about that apartment complex downtown a couple years ago, that the whole thing just went up, and I actually, one of my project managers was PM on that job, and he lost his foreman on that. And that was, I had heard that it was a spark from a welder that had set something, but he was telling me that it wasn't necessarily the case. They don't know how the whole place caught on fire, but all those TGIs or OSB plywood has got so much glue in it, you know, that they go up so fast, and there's just no way to get out quick enough, you know, and that's why we all have to deal with all the fireproofing that we have to do around stair shafts and elevator shafts and such, because those things some of that stuff is so flammable, you know. 15 minutes, I think that whole building was on fire, you know, and that's sad, you know. It's scary and I don't know how I would react in a situation like that. You know, we always talk about, if I was in that situation, I'd go rescue the world, you know, and you really hope that you would, but fear is a big factor that takes over. So you can do everything you can to prevent the fire, then you can reduce the fear factor.
And have an exit plan.
Definitely. Egress is part of your safety plan. Then you got Mother Nature. you know, and dry time of the year for us, hurricane time of the year for Texas and Louisiana right now, right? But you got to watch out for that lightning. I mean, lightning's beautiful when it's cloud to cloud, you know, but the dry air that creates more static electricity and more lightning, and it can really just tear up all the natural landscape. You know, it's just so dangerous. Um, and no one can stop any of that. You know, we can global warming. Everybody has their own opinion on that, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is August is the driest month, you know, or hottest month usually. So you got to watch out for all of our Mother Nature throwing her curveballs. And you know, a lot of people have houses up in the mountains or something like that, or a cabin, and they tell them to clear away all the brush from up close to the house, you know, to help protect the house from catching fire in a wildfire. You can do the same thing at home. You know, look at that pile that's on the back corner or whatever in your yard that, you know, is just dried up, nasty stuff that you just haven't ever dealt with. It's time to deal with that so that you don't have your neighborhood be a fire hazard because you have a mess, you know. So combustible trash could become fuel. Very important word there. And then, due to the pandemic, my wife is one of the people that's working from home. And I got to be honest, this picture is from what I did last week. So I needed 3 plugs, and I only had an outlet, you know, or extension cord. So I took one of those little 6-way splitters, and yeah, those on the bottom picture, those other 2 prongs are going to be hot, right? So I kind of hid it in a little safe way so that it wouldn't catch anything on fire and my dog wouldn't run into it or anything. So I mean, I'm just as bad as everybody else, but that's something that we need to think about is as these people are working from home, and that was only for like an hour until I found a 3-way, so I got it fixed. But if you think about it, if you got a spare room that somebody's working from home now, you know, I mean, that you got all that stuff plugged into one receptacle, and you got a little surge protector there, you know, and sure, it's got a little pop fuse on it, hopefully, but what happens in the wintertime when it gets a little chilly and you know how we do those service calls where somebody wants a heater in their office because it's cold. Now you're plugging in that little heater to that plug strip and the phone charger and oh, now I need my radio, you know, and all this stuff working off of that one outlet that's probably only a 15 amp circuit and just not designed for all that. So it's something to really pay attention to now that a lot of people are working from home. We got to spread the word to be careful, you know, and be safe. And that's pretty much the end of it.
Awesome. Yeah. Especially, you know, that rig that you have set up there, you know, you see that quite a bit, you know, and as now everybody in the house is off their own technology. So that's not just an extra computer, that's a phone being plugged in. That's all these different things, you know. The common habit is if a circuit breaker trips is just to find the circuit breaker, right, and just turn it back on. There's a reason why that circuit breaker tripped. Okay, and those, and especially if you're dealing with older houses or residents, or you know, some of those electrical panels are not meant to just flip back and forth and turn breakers on back on. You know, those do. I mean, if a breaker trips, it tripped for a reason. Okay, which means your load is one of 3 things is happening, right? You're having a short circuit, a ground fault, or an overload. Okay, that's what causes circuit breakers to trip, one of those 3 areas. Okay, so if you're having an overload because you've got too much amperage pushing through and you're just flopping that breaker back and forth, sooner or later you're going to start a fire. Okay, and it's not going to be good for anybody. So and we see it here in the office. Now, I got to tell you, especially in the wintertime, okay, you know, we've got humidifiers going on. We've got heaters, fans, you know, all of these things, you know what I mean, are an inductive load, right? A fan's an inductive load, a heater's an inductive load, okay? All these things that draw a lot of amperage because it's using a resistor to make things happen, so especially when a heating element or something, right? So it's taking a lot of juice to do these things. And so it's, some of our offices, right, are strung along one circuit, right? So we've got, it's not a circuit in office, it's maybe two offices on a circuit, right? And so I might be over here chilling out in the dark, not doing anything but running my computer. But if my next door neighbor in the office over here has got, all kinds of crazy things going on and I'm here working, I'm going to lose my stuff, one. And two, you can't just go to the breaker box and start flipping breakers. You got to lighten that load and make sure that your load is balanced enough to handle it. So don't just turn breakers back on, everybody. Okay, make sure that you're finding the reason why that breaker tripped and fix it. Okay, because turning the breaker back on to see if you can just push that load through it again is not fixing the issue. Okay. And that's something you're seeing probably a lot more in the home, probably too, you're seeing a lot more Joe homeowner right now working on their own stuff, at the house, replacing their own switches and maybe receptacles and things like that. I can tell you that there's a reason that this is considered a skilled trade, right? And require electrical licensure and training and OJT to get the license to be able to work on your own, because some of these fires that happen are, right? I mean, you're not putting that AFI on, you're not putting that GFI on. They don't know what those code standards are. So they're even putting the right piece of equipment on, right? Are they even utilizing the right stuff when it comes to these Joe homeowner installations? And so, it's a good information to just pass out. Now, us as electricians and industry professionals, we know all that, but tell your friends, because your friends might not be, and so, and I can tell you, at least the electricians I know that are on this session are never going to go, oh, go ahead and do that yourself in your house. You know what I mean? You're never going to tell somebody to do that. At least I hope not. Raise your hand if you do. I'm just joking. But that's a good point. So make sure you're paying attention to your electrical in your house. When it comes to some of the statistics that we see, when it comes to what the reasons for fires are, the number one cause of fire is cooking. Okay, the number one cause in the residence. Okay, so let's talk about that. Cooking. Do we have more people in the house cooking now? Probably. Do you know what I mean? You've got dad cooking, mom cooking, kids probably trying to do stuff, that's something to pay attention to, okay? Another good advice about cooking is, hey, look, if you're somebody out there and you've got a long day and you maybe go have a couple of drinks or hang out with some friends and go home and want to make yourself this huge meal, you should never cook while under the influence of anything. Okay, because you're going to forget and you're going to be distracted, and that's one of the number one reasons for household fires right there, is because unattended or complacency in the kitchen. Okay, another one, another big hitter, and it's number 2 as far as the causes for fires in the residence, and that is electrical malfunction. So that's that when we talk about that circuit breaker. Okay, you keep flopping that circuit breaker back on when that load is not balanced, okay, you're going to damage that circuit breaker, okay, and you're going to cause heat. You're forcing electrical flow through something that's trying to turn off, okay, which is in turn going to cause a fire, okay? There's a reason why we have AFIs in the house. AFIs are arc fault circuit interrupters, okay, and that's what they sense. Now, they're a pain in the butt as far as an electrician goes, but as far as the homeowner goes, I mean, it's a really safe thing, but those circuits are going to trip, and there's a reason why. So be careful on that. So manufacturing or not manufacturing, electrical malfunction is the number 2 reason, okay? Another big reason, and this is on the job site as well when it comes to electrical, pay attention to your extension cords, okay? You see Dustin, when he put that picture in from his rig at home, okay? When you're using extension cords and you're plugging in splitters and surge protectors and all of that stuff, remember, if you're attaching one cord into another cord as far as length goes, you're ruining the UL listing of that cord. Okay, that cord is not designated. Okay, if you buy a 50-foot cord and you attach it to another 50-foot cord, you've ruined the UL listing of that cord. You needed a 100-foot cord. Does that make sense? Okay, and there's a reason why they have a UL listing on that stuff, okay, because it's not rated to handle that type of push. So just be careful on that electrical, okay? More extension cords are being used. Make sure you've got proper extension cord maintenance. Check those extension cords out. The common thing that is lost on an extension cord is its ground, okay? Try your hardest to when you buy an extension cord, make sure it's got the grounding conductor in it, okay? Because that is your life safety circuit when it comes to electrical hazards, okay? A lot of extension cords get damaged, either that's in the home or on the job site. You know, how many times as a contractor have you all seen an extension cord that had wire nuts connecting one end of the cord to the other? I've seen it a bunch, also too, as an electrician, I can go to the supply house or Home Depot if I've got a bad extension cord, and I can make a new extension cord, okay, by just buying the right pieces of equipment. But you have to understand when you do that, it's no longer a UL listed extension cord, okay? It's no longer watertight at the ends. Things like that you got to pay attention to when it comes to electrical safety on extension cords, okay? So inspect that stuff on the job site and at the home, because those are big hitters as far as not just fires, right? You get a spark in a, for all we know, Dustin, right? That fire that happened a couple of years ago, it could have been a spark from an extension cord. Could have been somebody. How many of y'all have seen people take their electrical lifts on a job site and run over extension cords? You guys ever see that? Yeah, right. Every time there's a lift and an extension cord in the room, it seems like it's going to get run over, right? You might as well just put it under the wheels when you get there. Another big cause of fires in the home are appliances. Okay, so appliances are another big one. All right, and you think that your people in the home are using their appliances more? No, we're talking about heaters, right? We're talking about ovens. We're talking about fart fans in the bathroom. We're talking about all kinds of different things that people are using. Okay, they're leaving it on, or it's old and faulty, and it's catching on fire. Okay, those appliances, if they had the right electrical installation in them, they wouldn't catch on fire. Okay, they would arc fault through the systems that are provided. So when I take a look at some of the number one reasons why you see fires in the workplace, as well as in the home, I see a lot of them electrically related. Okay, with the exception of cooking, right? I think 3 out of the 5 causes for fire from FEMA were electrically related. Okay, so electricity plays a big role. Make sure that you're paying attention to it as we go into the cooler months here coming soon. Don't leave a space heater unattended. And this is on construction sites too. How many of you guys have ever had the big jet blowers on your job site to keep the job site warm? You see that all the time. And what's the first thing you see next to that heater? People's boots and socks and gloves and stuff like that they're corralling around, right, to stay warm on a job site. But how much of that stuff is flammable? You know what I mean? How much of that stuff, if it was to actually touch that heater, would cause damage, not just to the heater, but to whatever it is that got touched, right? So pay attention to those things. Never leave that stuff unattended, because if you do, it's one small mistake, right? That's going to have a big impact, right? One small mistake, like you said too, Dennis, one cigarette butt could have caused thousands upon thousands of dollars in damage and possibly a life, right? If something is being dealt with in any form of complacency. So safety is a big deal on those areas. So electrical is a big area, right? Any questions or dialogue or want to talk about any of this stuff? I've been just kind of rambling. Anybody want to pop in?
Hey, Paul, it's Leland. I was thinking, this might be more of like the HVAC side of it, but with the people being home, being in residences, working at other houses, and like you said, more people, I'm just wondering with how hot it's been lately, the amount of AC units that have been going out just from being run constantly, running hot. I mean, even my own house, I was just, home, and I was like, why is this running constantly? It's like, it seems like I hear the thing kicking on constantly, and it's hot. People are trying to keep the temperatures at a reasonable, amount. And it could be from the type of
Well,
insulation.
it's your filters. Look
Yeah.
what's in the air right now, right? So even when you're running that AC system, okay, your AC system's not getting the air that it needs. So that's why it's continuously clicking on. Okay, you're not getting to the temperature that you need to because you're not pulling in enough air through your filtration unit, right? And because of what we're dealing with, when was the last time we actually saw the sun? It's been weeks since we've actually seen the sun because of all the smoke, right? That's in the air right now. We're breathing that stuff in, and that's going through our filtration systems, not just in our buildings, right, but in our homes as well. Causes fires, right? It's causing that fan to constantly be clicking on, and if it's not pulling in clean air, it's dirtying the fan, causing more weight on the fan, causing the fan to have to work harder to get to RPM. And it's ruining the integrity of the fan. Absolutely. So change your filters as much as you can. That's another good tip. Make sure that your motors and your equipment can breathe. Okay, that's the biggest thing, when it comes to electrical, and why circuit breakers trip and things like that, because it's the amount of heat that's going through that circuit, or the amount of heat that is on that motor or that transformer or whatever it is that's trying to perform that function is it's because of heat. And so and being able to filter your air and that it's got good air coming in is a good way to cool things down and be more preventative, right, on damage. So yeah, it's a good point. Good point on that, Leland. Anybody else want to chime in on that? It's a quiet crowd today.
I think a good topic is
Here's a question from Holly. With small appliances that are left unplugged, toasters, coffee machines, etc., are we overloading circuits even when we are not used? No, you're not. Okay. If you're not using the piece of equipment, you're not using it. Electricity only does two things. It either is being switched or it's being used. And the reason why it's being switched is to be used. Okay, so if you're not using it, it's in the switch position. So you're not using it. Cool. Does that make sense, Holly? Now, if you have got a piece of equipment, right, right, that has like an indicator light or something like that on there, usually it's not pulling much juice, you know what I mean, but it's using a little bit of electricity, but not in its normal function. Any other questions? Any other comments on that? Come on, you guys are an easy crowd today. Come on.
I think a big topic is evacuation routes on job sites and making sure
having a plan.
Having a plan, making sure that your guys know a plan, and like when we go do safety walks, making sure that like you ask random guys each time you do a safety walk, hey, if you're standing at this location, what's your route out? And in that way, you're making sure that the guys are engaged on that and they're actually talking about it. Because when you talk to the foreman, a lot of times it's, oh yeah, everybody knows, it's you just come down the stairs and do that. But when you actually ask somebody that doesn't actually know, it brings an awareness. So just double check your crew on sites and make sure they have good safety routes and understand it.
Absolutely. And then that's an area that we're going to talk about real quick too, Joe, that you brought that up, is kind of that plan, right? So what are some key things when it comes to both home and business fire awareness and prevention? The first thing is know how to escape that room. Okay. Have a plan so that if something does happen, not only yourself, but the others in occupancy, right? Have a plan on being able to get out with as smooth egress as possible, right? So having a plan, and not just having a plan, but making sure everybody's aware of that plan, okay? And that's in the home and in the business. I know most of us out there, when we go to work or we have an entity within our organization that has a safety protocol. Like here at the school, we We have an evacuation plan. We have a fire plan. We have a lot of those plans in place in case something does happen. If you don't have those within your organization or your business model, it's not a bad idea to have that, okay? Have a safe zones for where you can gather people if you do have to evacuate. So that's a huge one. Have a plan, okay? And another thing that's important is to make sure that it's part of that plan. So a plan is an engineer or is an administrative control. But what you need as an engineering control for that plan are fire extinguishers, right? Making sure that your smoke detectors or carbon detectors are working and have got batteries and tested. Technically, you're supposed to test your fire systems monthly or inspect them. Okay, how many of y'all do that? It's hard to, huh? It's a hard checkbox item, right? To go through and put a date on your fire extinguisher, isn't it? To do that monthly? It's a pretty complacent thing though, wouldn't you say? Until you grab that fire extinguisher and you haven't checked it in 6 months and it doesn't work anymore. You know, or the pin's out or you don't have any pressure because you haven't checked it, right? So, I mean, that's a huge deal. How many of y'all, and I have, I'm full transparency guilty of all this stuff. You know, I have taken the battery out of my fire alarm. I've done it. You know, I'm at home cooking, right? I'm cooking up some steaks or some greasy burgers or something like that, right? That thing goes off in my dining room, and if you keep going, man, if that thing chirps at me one more time, I'm pulling the battery on it. You know what I mean? And then when I go to pull the battery on it, that battery sits on the dining room table, and then that battery goes into the junk drawer, right? Because I didn't want to jump back up and put it back in there. And next thing you know, next time I'm cooking burgers, I'm not hearing anything, right? So it's not even top of mind anymore, right? Totally forgot about it over just a convenience. You know what I mean? They put
Something else about that. When I took over safety at Integrity, I was looking at some fire extinguishers. I'm like, wait a sec, these haven't been checked in quite some time, you know.
Years, probably.
Well, it had just barely been over a year, you know, and we went through a couple of safety guys before I kind of settled in here. So, you know, sometimes you have a change of the guard or change of command, whatever you want to call it, you know, that some things like that can slip through the cracks, you know. So I really like that you brought up this fire extinguishers, because those get forgotten.
Yeah, inspect those things, you know, and it's a hard, tedious thing to do, because it's like, you know, you just have to pick it up and make sure that it's in solid condition. You know, it's not anything difficult, but it's something you have to put on a schedule and adhere to, because if you don't, like I said, with the battery and the fire alarm, you know, you're going to forget that you took that battery out of that fire alarm because it's not chirping at you anymore, you know. Next thing you know, something bad could happen. So that's another thing as far as an action plan goes that we need to do is to check your fire extinguishers, okay? Have an exit plan, okay? When you're using the fire extinguishers, there's a sequence called pass, okay? And that's pull the pin, aim low at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle slowly, and sweep, okay? So it's called pass. I actually shared this resource at the beginning of the chat, so you can pull up a few links on some of this stuff. Let's see here. Escape plan, fire alarm. Make sure you're checking that stuff. Have a zone that when you do exit the home, right, that you and your family or you and your business or work colleagues can hone into a certain area, a little checkpoint area where you're safe. Always dial 911, because another thing about fires, and this is something that a lot of people are unaware of, that it's called a reflash or a flash watch, okay? And once you have a fire, right, and it burns up some stuff, you know, what you have to do is watch that fire. Just because it's not burning anymore in front of you does not mean it's not burning internally, okay? And so a lot of times what happens, some people think they have the fire out, okay, and then walk away from it, and then they call a reburn or a reflash or a flash burn, okay? It's it reignites and it catches on fire again, okay? I think they said that when you have a significant fire where it's caused damage, you need to watch that fire, I think, for reflash for, I think it's like 40 minutes before you can ensure a fire's out. It's not going to amber back up and cause another fire. So be aware of that, okay? And also, there are certain types of fire extinguishers for every type of fire, okay? So be sure that you're paying attention to the type of fire extinguisher that you need to be using. Okay, there's different fire extinguishers for different types of fire, so make sure that you're abreast of those types. Let's see, so that really covers kind of the home, that covers the business, when it comes to work. Now, when it comes to work, we're talking about really administrative and engineering controls when it comes to work, right? So just make sure you have an administrative control within your organizations on those things, having an exit plan, maintaining your safety equipment, making sure that you have a systematic or a monthly check-in on your life safety system or your fire alarm systems. Am I missing anything, y'all? Anything that you want to chime in on when it comes to that? Get some feedback. Man, you guys are an easy crowd today.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, Holly.
I was thinking that with those who have new employees like we do here at IECRM, we don't go over that safety plan with them as part of their onboarding.
Orientation.
Yeah.
That's not, you're absolutely right. We kind of wait until we have it next on schedule, right, before we get to it. So it's not part of a welcome to IEC, here's the plan thing. It's kind of when we get to it, right? So maybe we have got a small complacency that we need to taken care of too, right? So
a good idea to plan for that as part of their
as part of their onboarding process. It's a good point, Holly. Thank you. Anybody have anything else to say on it?
Also think about it when you were in school, how often they do fire drills,
Yeah, twice a year.
Yeah, I haven't done one in the office since, I don't think I've done one in the office, so, I don't know. I'm sure it's simple as calling the fire department or fire alarm company and say, hey, we're gonna do a drill. Most of us have fire alarm keys to reset the pull station, or you can even go to the panel and sometimes they have a fire drill button, so something worth looking into.
Yeah. Also too, when you're talking about that, we send or you all as contractors and industry people, you're sending your personnel to job sites, this, that, and all over the place. You know what I mean? You're dealing with big job sites, you're dealing with one-off service calls, things like that, so it's an important topic to, if you're dealing with your general contractors on a site, something like that, that they are communicating regularly, right? Because on a job site, look at how many different personnel are on and off a job site, different people, right? On job sites all the time. So one of the other administrative controls that should be put on is whenever you send, say, a new person to a new job site, something like that, maybe that's a checkbox too, that they need to get a hold of the GC or get a hold of that foreman that they're reporting to, or if you're sending the foreman, right, making sure that they're aware of what the big picture fire and awareness plan is right on the job site. And the general contractor will have one. Okay. It's just a matter of making sure you get that communication from them. So, and they'll appreciate that you ask for it. If you go to your general contractor and say, hey, look, we're, especially as an electrician, right? We should always know because what we have to deal with, right? We should always know what their fire plan is. And here's a story. Like I was a second-year apprentice, and I was doing some underground work for a school, okay? I was doing actually the underground for a gym. And while I was doing the underground for the gym, they were welding the joists up to put the roof on, right? So I've got welders above me, right, working. We tried to do it in zones, so that I don't have a welder directly over me, so we're doing it in different zones, where I'm working in zone B, he's in A, and after lunch, I'm going to go to A and he's going to be in B, right? So we're not working over each other. But what I had done when I went to switch over from zone A to B, I had left my glue can there, right? My glue can to tie my PVC together, my glue. And as you know, if you've ever worked with welders and people like that working overhead on you, They have slag, right? So their slag from their welding drops down into the dirt and onto the ground, things like that. And that stuff's on fire, you know, when it drops. And it dropped into my glue can. And I don't know if that was like target practice for that welder, because he saw the glue can down there, you know what I mean? And was like, see if I can get this slag in there. Because I would imagine that would have been a pretty hard by chance thing to happen, but it could have. You know what I mean? But be aware, don't leave your tools around and stuff like that. You know, as electricians also, we use torches. We use these things called green box. I call them dragons, where we heat up pipes so we can bend it and move it and things like that. It's a big heater, you know, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen a piece of PVC catch on fire. Okay, because of how long they've let it in the dragon, because they're trying to soften it up so they can pull or get their underground done. You guys familiar with what I'm talking about? It happens all the time. I mean, how many pieces of PVC have you ever seen gotten damaged because you left it in the dragon too long? Okay, you can't do that, you know, and so just be extra careful out there when it comes to those things. Make sure that you've got an action plan. Make sure your general contractor has an action plan, or your office, you know, and if not, be proactive about it, because people will appreciate your focus on this type of safety, you know. So yeah. And having said that, unless you guys have anything else, we're reaching the 8:30 time mark. We've given this a good hour. And unless there's some other top of mind topics or anything you guys wanted to cover, I'm going to try and let you guys get on with this Mad Wednesday. Anything else you want to add? Joe, you good? Leland, Square, man?
All good, man.
Awesome. Brian, you all good? Thanks for joining us, Brian, brother. We appreciate it. And we've got, we have, I think so, you put all your contact information in there, Brian, in the chat so people know how to get a hold of you?
I did, and I do have anti-fog safety glasses and logoed available masks that secure along the nose so that the hot moisture air doesn't fog glasses. So yeah, I did put the contact info in there.
Very awesome. Thank you for that. Mr. Green, thank you so much for your help this morning, my man.
Thank you, sir.
You're always great to ally when it comes to the safety front, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, let's see who else we got. And unless anybody has any questions, last minute topics, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and we're going to call it good.
Thank you, everybody.
All good. All right, we'll see you guys soon. We'll look to your communications. Next month is the planning session. Okay, so let's get some good things on the schedule so I can start finding SMEs, and we'll get it going.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paul.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Later.